It's no secret that strawberries are having a moment right now. From glass can wraps to t-shirts to stickers and more, I'm sure you've seen them all over Etsy and the stores when you're out and about. In this video, I'm going to show you how to draw your own strawberry SVG files from scratch, and by the end, you'll have an SVG file that is ready to cut with a Cricut, Silhouette, or other cutting machine. I'm also going to walk you through exactly how I would build this design differently for cardstock versus vinyl, because the material you're cutting definitely changes how you should structure your cut files. If you're new here, I'm Kristen, the designer behind Printable Cuttable Creatables, where I've been designing and selling SVGs since 2015, with a library of over 1,800 files and counting. Here at Cut File Classroom, I'm taking my over 10 years of experience and showing you how to design and even sell your own professional quality cut files. If you want to follow along, I'll put the link below where you can download the free Illustrator practice file, which includes these finished strawberry designs and the working versions used to create them. First, I'll move these over to the side so I have some room on my artboard, and then I'm going to start creating my strawberry shape. And I'm just going to press the L key to bring up the ellipse tool on my keyboard, and with the ellipse tool, I'm going to click and drag on my artboard to create a short oval. Not a perfect circle, but not too long of an oval either. So something like that should work. And then I'm going to press Shift C to bring up the Convert Anchor Point tool. And I'm just going to click and drag at the bottom anchor point. And if you start dragging and you get a loop like this, just drag the other direction and it'll straighten out for you. And I'm going to hold Shift while I drag to make sure that things don't get wonky. It's just going to keep my direction handles nice and even. And I'm just going to kind of bring this bottom point to a little bit of a rounded corner, not too sharp of a corner, just a soft rounded corner, something like that. Then I'm going to press the A key on my keyboard to grab the direct selection tool, and I'm going to click and drag to select these center handles, and I'm just going to click and drag them upward, and I'm holding Shift to make sure that they drag perfectly vertically upward and don't get skewed off to the side. Then I'm going to select this top anchor point and hold Shift as I drag it downward. And now we can kind of start to see a strawberry shape forming. Now I'm going to press Shift C again, and I'm going to hold Shift while I click on this top anchor point with the Convert Anchor Point tool. And what that does is it converts this point from a smooth point to a corner point. So now if I click on this handle and drag it up, it's not going to affect the handle on the other side. And likewise, if I click on this handle and drag it up, it's not going to affect the other side, and it creates this nice little indent in the middle, which is more like how a strawberry looks. Now I'm actually going to select this shape, and I'm going to drag on the side handle and make it a little bit wider for more of a plump strawberry. Oh, and then I can actually take this a step further. And if I click on this top anchor point, I see the live corner widget appear, and I can actually drag this outward to give this a smoother transition here. And now that's just getting a little bit fancy, but I like the way that looks, so I'm going to stick with it. And so now we see a nice strawberry shape starting to form. If we want to take it a little bit further and give the sides a little bit of an indent, similar to how a real strawberry looks, I can use the direct selection tool to select that path and press P on my keyboard to bring up the pen tool. And then I can just click right around here to add an anchor point. And then I can go back to the direct selection tool and just kind of nudge that in a little bit. Let me zoom in here, and I'm just going to drag these handles in a little bit as I bring that in. And then I can pull this point outward a little bit more and just kind of tweak around with this shape until I get it to look the way that I want. Let me make this a little wider. There we go. I just want kind of a subtle indent there. So something like that. And then once I'm happy, I'm going to do the same on the other side. I'm going to press the P key, and I'm going to click to add an anchor point on the other side. And then I'm going to use the direct selection tool to bring these handles inward and nudge that point inward a little bit. And then pull out this point and adjust the handle to give this more of a full rounded shape. And let's see, let me drag this point outward as well. There we go. So once you get a strawberry shape that you're happy with, then you're ready to move on and create the leaves. To create the leaves, I'm going to press L on my keyboard again to bring up the ellipse tool, and I'm going to grab a green fill color, and I'm just going to click and drag to the right to draw a kind of skinny horizontal oval, something like this. And I'm going to press Shift C on my keyboard to bring up the Convert Anchor Point tool, and I'm going to click on the left and right anchor points of that oval to convert them to corner points, which gives me this leaf shape. And then I'm going to use the selection tool to kind of place this leaf so that the inner anchor point lines up with the center of my strawberry. So now I'm going to rotate copies of this leaf to create the rest of this little leaf cluster at the stem of the strawberry. So to do that, I'm going to press R on my keyboard to grab the rotate tool. You can also find that over here in the tool panel on the left. And once I have the rotate tool selected, notice that there is mine is light blue, yours might be a different color, but there is a crosshair in the middle of my leaf shape. And that crosshair allows me to click and drag on the leaf shape, and it'll rotate around that fixed point in the center there. But if I don't want my point of rotation to be in the center, I can change it. So with the rotate tool selected, I'm actually going to click on this anchor point on the left side of the leaf, and now the crosshair has moved here. So I can click and drag this leaf shape, and instead of rotating around the center of the leaf shape, it's now rotating around this fixed point. So now with the point of rotation here at the center of the strawberry, I can begin to make copies of this leaf that are rotated. So to do that, I'm going to click and drag on the leaf shape, and then I'm going to press the Alt or Option key on my keyboard. And once my cursor turns to those double arrows and I start dragging, we can see that it actually makes a copy of that leaf shape, but it's also rotating it around that new fixed point. So I'm just going to click and drag, and when I get to the point where I want the leaf to be, I'm going to let go of my mouse. And then I'm going to click and drag again and press Alt or Option on my keyboard again. And then I'm going to repeat that again. I'm going to click and drag and then press Alt or Option while I'm dragging, and then let go. Click and drag again and then press Alt or Option as I'm dragging. And then once I get over here, I can release my mouse. And it looks like I just want to bring this one in just a little bit to kind of make that a nice smooth meeting point in the middle. And now I have my leaf cluster. Now let's say we want to get a little bit fancy again and go a little step further. So I'm going to press Shift C on my keyboard again to bring up the Convert Anchor Point tool. And I'm just going to click and drag on this upper path of this leaf here to kind of give that a little bit of more of a curve and a little more of a flowy leaf shape. And let's say I'm going to do that again on this leaf, and then on this other top leaf as well. And I can actually use the Convert Anchor Point tool to click and drag on the handles as well, so I don't need to switch to a different tool to do that. I can do that directly with the Convert Anchor Point tool. Now, if I do want to reposition the anchor point itself, then I'll need to just press A and hop over to the direct selection tool and make that adjustment. So you can kind of fiddle around with the shape of your leaves to get them looking the way that you like. I think that looks pretty cute. So now I'm just going to select all of these leaves, and I'm actually going to come into the Pathfinder panel and click Unite so that they all now become a single cuttable shape. If we left them all as separate shapes, then a cutting machine would cut through all of these overlapping areas and it would just create a giant mess. So once again, we're using Pathfinder Unite to combine those leaf shapes together. Now we can add a little stem on top to finish off the top of our strawberry. So I'm going to press P to bring up the pen tool. And right now I have a green fill color and no stroke. So I'm going to press Shift X to swap that. So now I have a stroke color with no fill. So I'm going to press P on my keyboard to bring up the pen tool. And I'm just going to kind of click right where I want the stem to begin. And I'm going to drag downward and to the left and then release my mouse. And then when I move my pen down here, we can see a highlight of a curve that's appearing. And this is what my path is going to look like. So once I've got that curve looking the way I want it, I'm going to go ahead and click and release to set the other anchor point for that path. And I think that looks pretty good. So now I'm going to press the A key to grab my direct selection tool. And then I can just kind of fine tune the placement of this. And I want to thicken up this stroke weight a little bit. So I'm coming over to the stroke panel and let's just try 12 points. And I think that's a good place to start. And then what I like to do is I like to give my strokes a rounded cap, which we can do over here in the stroke panel. If you don't have the stroke panel open on your screen, you can come over to Window and find it here in the Windows menu and just make sure that you check it for it to appear on your screen, and then you can choose that rounded cap option. And then the other thing that I like to do is to add a little more variety to the width of this stroke, and I'm going to do that using the width tool. The keyboard shortcut for the width tool is Shift W, or you could find it here in the toolbar. So with the width tool selected, I'm going to click at the top point of my stem and I'm going to drag outward away from that center of the path. And as we can see, we get like a preview of how our new path is going to look. So it gives us a wider width at the top of the stem and it kind of tapers inward to the base of the strawberry, which I like the look of that. So I like to do my stems that way. So now we can see we're starting to have a nice strawberry shaping up here. And now we need the final touch, which is the strawberry seeds. So to do that, again, I'm going to press L to grab the ellipse tool, and I'm going to change my fill color to a light pink, and we still have our stroke selected. So I'm going to press Shift X to swap the fill and the stroke. So now that is our fill color once again. And I'm just going to zoom in here because the seeds are kind of small and I want to be able to see what I'm doing. So I'm going to click with the ellipse tool and drag and make kind of an oval shape again. And I'm going to press Shift C to grab the Convert Anchor Point tool. And then I'm going to click on that top anchor point. And right away, that's going to give us kind of a seed shape. Now I'm just going to select these two anchor points on the side using the direct selection tool. And I'm holding shift as I drag them slightly downward. So now that gives me this nice teardrop shape, which kind of looks like a seed. So I'm just gonna place this on the strawberry and resize it a bit and just kind of play around with it a little bit. And once I get it looking the way I want, I can start placing them on the strawberry. To make my copies, I'm going to use the selection tool and press Alt or Option as I click and drag on that shape to make a copy. Now I like to start by dragging straight up and create some seeds in the center of the strawberry and then kind of fan out from there and stagger the placement of the seeds. When you see seeds on a strawberry, they look kind of like a polka dot arrangement, like scattered. So this is what I'm trying to replicate here. So just pressing Alt or Option as you click and drag on a shape will make a copy of it, and it kind of helps you quickly place copies around the strawberry. And then I'm using the bounding box to kind of rotate each seed just a little bit so they look like they are following the shape of the strawberry. So I think that looks pretty good. Once you've got your seeds placed where you like them, you can select them all. So I'm using the selection tool and holding shift as I click on each seed to select it. And actually, I'm not going to include these center ones in my selection because I'm actually going to now make a copy of these and reflect them to the other side. So I don't need to include the center seeds for that. And now I can drag out a guideline from the rulers. If you don't have your rulers turned on, you can press Command or Control R and they will appear, and then you could drag out a guideline. So I'm placing that guideline sort of in the center of my strawberry, and let me select those seeds again. So I'm going to press O on my keyboard to bring up the reflect tool. And now I can use this line as a guide to reflect over. So I'm going to click to place my point of reflection, and then I'm going to hold Alt or Option and then click somewhere else on that line to reflect a copy over that axis. So I've shown that in detail in several of my videos. That's my preferred way to create a reflected copy of a shape. Okay, so now I don't need this center guide anymore, so I can just select it and delete it. And I can just kind of tweak the placement of these seeds a little bit, but I think generally they're looking pretty good. The only thing that I don't love is that they're looking a little big to me now. So here's what I can do. If I tried selecting all of the seeds and shrinking them as a group, they're gonna shrink as a group, and then that's gonna mess up all of my spacing that I just worked on. So there's a cool thing in Illustrator called Transform Each. So I can come up to Object, Transform Each. And that's going to bring up this menu that's going to let us make different changes to each of these seeds individually. So here under Scale, right now it's set to 100%, but I can change this to, let's say, oop, not 800, let's say 80%, and then make sure that this link here is active, which it is. And then when I click on the other field for the vertical, it'll automatically sync the two together. And what we see happened over here is that each individual seed has been scaled down, but they kept their placement. So if I toggle that preview, we can see this is what they did look like, and this is what they look like now, but their placement is still where I wanted them to be. So I think that's pretty cool. Now, the other thing that I don't like here is that the seeds all have the points facing downward, and I don't love that either. So I want to see how it would look if the points were at the top. So here I also have the option to rotate the shapes individually. Instead of rotating the entire group, it's going to rotate each seed individually. So here under the rotate angle, I'm just going to type in 180 and then toggle that preview. And now it's flipped each individual seed so that the point of the seed faces upward. And I like that much better. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And while all these seeds are still selected, I'm going to go ahead and right click and choose group so that I don't have to select them all individually anymore and they behave as a group. So that's our beautiful strawberry, and I think it looks pretty cute. So I'm just going to select the whole thing and I'm going to make it a group. So now the next thing that we need to do is to make sure that this design is cuttable. So the first thing I'm going to do is take care of the stem right here. Right now this is a stroke, so a cutting machine would just cut this as a line instead of cutting around that nice stem shape that we created. So in order to turn this into a cuttable shape, we need to come up to Object, Path, Outline, Stroke, and now we can see that that stroke has been outlined into an actual vector shape that a cutting machine could cut. So now the next thing we need to do is we have the stem and we have the leaves, and they are two separate shapes right now. And once again, if we tried to have a cutting machine cut this, it would cut out this overlapping area in the middle as a separate piece, and it just would not be easy to work with at all. So we need to combine these two shapes, but first I'm actually going to select this and hold Alt or Option as I click and drag to make a copy, because let's say I want a version of my strawberry that doesn't have the stem sticking out and just has the leaf cluster. So I've deleted that stem, and this is going to be one version of my strawberry, and then the other one will have a stem. So now I can select that stem shape and the leaves and come to the Pathfinder panel and click Unite to combine them. Okay, so at the beginning of this video, I said I would show you how I would approach layering these designs for paper versus vinyl. So when you're cutting things from paper or cardstock, it's more helpful to have layers that you can build upon versus when you're cutting something from vinyl, you don't want a lot of layers overlapping because it can create problems with your vinyl looking bulky and not sticking so well. So let's start with this strawberry here on the left, and let's say we're going to design this one to be cut from cardstock. So what I like to do for my paper designs is to create a base layer that the other pieces can be stacked upon. So right now, if I pull this stem away, we have the strawberry shape that we created, and then we have the seeds, which are individual little circle shapes that would be kind of a pain for somebody to place perfectly using cardstock. It would be a pain in the butt to do. So let me undo that. So to create a base for everything to go on, I'm going to select the stem and I'm going to press Command or Control C to make a copy, and then I'm going to press Command or Control F to paste another copy in front. And it doesn't look like anything happened, but if I click and drag the stem to the side, we can see that there is in fact a copy here. And I'm going to go ahead and change this copy, the color of this copy to red to match my strawberry. And then I'm going to also select the strawberry shape itself. So I have the stem copy selected and I have the strawberry selected. And then I'm going to come to the Pathfinder panel and click Unite. And that creates a base shape of this strawberry. And now I can right click and choose Arrange, Send to Back. And that sends that base layer to the back. And now we have a base where the user can easily place this stem on here and not have to worry about, is it crooked or is it not high enough or too low, and it'll just make it easier for them to stack those layers. So now the other issue that we mentioned is that these individual seeds here. So my preferred way to get around this is to actually punch out these seeds from the strawberry layer, basically creating a knockout of these seeds so that a bottom layer can show through. So to do that, I've got the seeds selected and I'm going to press Shift as I click on the strawberry shape to select that as well. So now with everything selected, I'm going to come over to Pathfinder and I'm going to click the minus front option, which subtracts those selected seeds from the strawberry shape. So now I've got basically holes punched through my strawberry shape. So if I drag this over here, we can kind of see everything behind it because those are holes that I punched in that strawberry shape. So to get our pink layer back, I'm going to make a copy of this. So I'm going to press Command or Control C, and then I'll press Command or Control F to paste in front again. And this time I'm going to change this fill color to pink. And now I'm going to use the group selection tool again. And now I'm just going to click on that shape. So everything is selected. We've got the outer path selected and all of these inner seed cutouts are selected as well. Then I'm going to hold Shift and just click on the outer edge of that shape to deselect it. So now I only have those seed cutouts selected. So now I can press Delete to get rid of those, and that leaves me with just this pink base shape. So since this is the base shape, it's going to go in the back of my design. So I'm going to come right click and choose Send to Back again, and that puts it in the back of my design. Now I also have that the green stem, which is in here somewhere. So I can select the strawberry and I can choose Arrange, Send Backward. So now we have our top layer, our middle layer, and our bottom layer, and this would be something that is very easy for somebody to cut and layer from pieces of cardstock. So I'm just going to group that and select that design and group it together. And now we can work on this strawberry to be cut from vinyl. As mentioned, you don't necessarily want to stack lots of layers of vinyl on top. Usually, you don't want to stack more than 2 to 3 layers of vinyl max. But with vinyl, we can cut out these seed pieces separately, and it's not so hard to layer them because we use a transfer sheet to apply them. So the trick here is to make sure that they keep their placement within the cutting software. So to do that, we want to make sure that these are all a compound path. So I'm going to come up to Object, Compound Path, Make, and now these will keep their correct placement when we send them to cut in a cutting software like Cricut Design Space. The final consideration is where the leaves overlap the strawberry shape itself, and you could leave this like this and it would probably layer just fine. You would see a little bit of this strawberry shape through the vinyl, and that's just a personal preference if that bothers you or not. If it does, what you could do is select the leaves and select the strawberry and punch out those shapes as well. So you can come to Pathfinder and choose Trim, and that kind of punches out the the leaves from the strawberry shape, creating kind of a puzzle piece effect. Now this does make it trickier to layer, so I would probably use the parchment paper method to make sure that my layering is more accurate with something like this. But like I said, that's definitely up to your personal preference or what you think would be easier for your customers to layer. That's pretty much it for that guy. So I'm going to select that design and press Command or Control G to group it. So now we have our 2 strawberries, and these guys are ready to save as SVG files to upload in your cutting machine. And of course, you could add all sorts of things to these. You could, add little hearts or sparkles or flowers, little strawberry blossoms to go along with these, and just kind of have all sorts of fun creating some sweet designs with these strawberries. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you would like to learn more about designing SVG files for cutting machines, head over to Cut File Classroom and download my free designer's guide to error-free SVGs, which includes the exact settings that I use for saving SVG files. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe, and feel free to drop any questions in the comments below. I also want to hear what you'd like to see next, so let me know in the comments and I might just make a video on it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.